Cube is deceptively simplistic, a high-concept survival scenario, stripped-down minimalism, identical rooms, recurring geometry indicative of the mathematical puzzle the characters must solve in order to escape, human subjects in a rat maze. This arena is a haunted maze given a sci-fi sheen, like something from the Twilight Zone, with hints of The Most Dangerous Game and Lord of the Flies. What gives the plot its original spin is its ingenuity. The narrative itself is like a puzzle, each new revelation a further step towards solving it. It's their understanding of the puzzle that allows them to progress through the maze, rather than the actual physical journey, which, as it turns out, has them going in circles. Only once the puzzle is solved can it lead them to freedom. The beauty of the mathematical system used is that not only does it encompass all the necessary elements of the puzzle, the room's location, its movements, leading the way out and whether or not the room itself is trapped, but it is also complex enough to satisfy as a genuine obstacle, and yet still simple enough a concept for the average layman to understand. It's a neat balancing act, allowing us to appreciate the theory without needing to know the maths. The sequels failed to follow through on this aspect, and to my mind lost a degree of the simple elegance of the original as a result. There is also a Kafkaesque element to the proceedings. The characters wake and they're inside the cube, not knowing how they got there, what's going on, or why. This mystery is one that is never resolved. We're only given hints as to what the truth may be. Though the entire film takes place within the cube, and is therefore the only thing we can be certain actually exists as far as this universe is concerned, their talk of life outside the cube strongly suggests the modern day which we recognise. We know that there is at least some purpose to who is chosen. Their presence there is deliberate insofar as each of them serve as a part of the puzzle itself, the skills each of them bring to the equation relevant to solving the puzzle. They are at least given the necessary tools to escape, if only they can figure out how to use them. It suggests that this is deliberate, some kind of experiment or game. Though as the film progresses, this sense of reason and purpose behind the cube, however perverse, begins to blur. The film opens with a special effects shot, the first victim of the cube's traps. It's the kind of scene that tends to make people's top 10 horror moments list, and justly so. It's a perfectly executed shock sequence, playing with tension and anticipation before delivering a killing blow that is uncompromising and audacious. Not only is it a great way of grabbing hold of the viewer, making sure they're paying attention to this little low-budget thriller, but it's a perfect setup for the film's high-concept scenario, and utterly fitting the uncomfortable journey the filmmakers are about to drag us on, even down to the gruesome geometry of the trap itself. Each of the characters is named after a prison. What's more, the prisons themselves reflect the personality of that character, a kind of subliminally subtle foreshadowing. San Quentin is notorious for brutality, Holloway is a woman's prison, Wren's led the way for modern prisons. But this is more than a neat little in-joke, and is indicative of the manner in which the film uses its characters, each a cipher to represent a particular human characteristic. In this high-concept world, reducing characters to ciphers works to sow hints as to what Cube itself is about. The cop, Quentin, takes charge of the group, but his strength and aggression rapidly degrades under pressure into violence and murder. Incidentally, the fact that the macho hero descends into madness and mindless brutality reveals in the writers a degree of cynicism that is pleasing to see in a world where action heroes become political figureheads. Leven is initially the damsel in distress, screaming to be rescued, but it's her math skill and reasoning that prevail and are key to their escape. Kazan is not just a useful little plot device, his savant math skills necessary to solving the puzzle. He also represents innocence, and as such is ultimately the only one that the filmmakers see fit to allow to survive. Wren is set up to lead them out and is promptly killed off, leaving them flailing and directionless, and it has to be said, his death is almost inevitable after his smugness and rousing speech. The filmmakers may have caught us off guard with the first trap, but we were expecting this one. Holloway combines paranoia and compassion. She has the strongest values and is the group's moral backbone. Everyone else is willing to abandon the innocent Kazan rather than shoulder the burden it will be to take him with them. She is also a conspiracy nut, her rants leading one to recall that old one-liner, "Question ain't whether you're paranoid, question's whether you're paranoid enough." Worth matches Holloway's cynicism but deals with it differently. His main character trait is complete apathy, which has most significance when they argue over what the cube is, wondering whether it's a military experiment or some rich guy's entertainment. But the filmmakers are far more cynical than that. Worth's "Big Brother is not watching you" speech is the closest this film comes to offering the viewer any real explanation as to what's going on.
This may be hard for you to understand, but there is no conspiracy. Nobody is in charge. It's a headless blunder operating under the illusion of a master plan. Can you grasp that? Big Brother is not watching you.
What kind of fucking explanation is that?
It's the best you're gonna get. I looked, and the only conclusion I could come to is that there is nobody up there.
Somebody had to say yes to this thing.
What thing? Only we know what it is.
We have no idea what it is.
We know more than anybody else. I mean, somebody might have known sometime before they got fired or voted out or sold it. But if this place ever had a purpose, then it got miscommunicated or lost in the shuffle. I mean, this is an accident, a forgotten perpetual public works project. You think anybody wants to ask questions? All they want is a clear conscience and a fat paycheck. I mean, I leaned on my shovel for months on this one. This was a great job.
Why put people in it?
Because it's here. You have to use it or you admit it's pointless.
But it is pointless.
Quentin, that's my point.
No Grandmaster, no Overseer, no conspiracy. Just a series of corporate committees, each passing the buck. A society ruled by business strategies and marketing demographics. It is this metaphor that is at the heart of Cube's enigma, and is every bit as intriguing as the puzzle that is its plot. The idea that the Cube is not so much evil as the accidental product of a society whose moral compass is led by corporate administration, a suggestion so banal as to be at once hideously astute and frighteningly perverse. It's an explanation steeped in enigma, and ultimately the filmmakers choose not to follow through on it, preferring instead to leave it as a hanging suggestion. The film's very ambiguity seems to invite interpretation, a blank structure making it easy to read into it anything you wish to, be it political, sociological, or spiritual. The filmmakers would rather have us debate the question than offer us any easy answers. What is outside the cube? What could possibly be sufficient to meet our expectations at this point? Scientists? Psychiatrists? Angels? Aliens? Another cube? The film doesn't feel the need to tell us, and if you really need to know, you can always watch the sequels. It is as this film treads into Lord of the Flies territory that it really lets loose its venom. Of all the deaths in this film, only 2 people are killed by the cube itself, both at the beginning, both disposable characters used by the director as examples to establish the setup. Everyone else is killed by each other. Despite the lethal traps, the cube plays fair, following a strict set of rules which, when understood, can be used to navigate its rooms in relative safety, whereas humans are vicious, self-serving, duplicitous, and ultimately murderous. This is a bleak and ugly view of humanity at its worst. It's this human savagery that is the true villain of the piece, be it the callous indifference that allowed the cube's construction in the first place, or the descent of humanity into barbarism, and is far more dangerous and more destructive than any mechanical trap. It's a pure and unrelenting cynicism that is the true heart of this film.
What is out there?
Boundless human stupidity.
I can live with that.
As far as the production goes, nothing here is wasted. They couldn't afford to. The logistical nightmare of shooting on a single set and out of sequence doesn't even bear thinking about. But Natali holds everything together well, constructing a taut and savage thriller that makes knowing a maximum use of a highly limited budget.